Welcome, NFL football fans. It's that time again. Time for another edition of NFL Football Talk. This is an Inside Sports production. I'm your host, Charles E. Smith Jr., and we're already up to week 4 of what's been a fantastic, unpredictable season. Before we break down all the games and kind of give us our picks of the week, let me go ahead and introduce my co-host. Many of you follow him already on Twitter at Chris L Sports, and if you're not, you should be. Has some fantastic, as I call them, nuggets of wisdom. So from an undisclosed location somewhere in Southern California, here is my esteemed co-host, none other than Chris Lardieri. Chris, what's happening?
Charles, great to be back with you. Thank you for another fantastic introduction. Looking back at last week in the NFL, it's amazing to me that anyone even watched those games. The feedback I've got from a number of fans across the country is that was some bad football, and I'm glad it's in the rearview mirror. I don't know about you.
Well, shall we call it interesting football? I mean, a lot of games that were, interesting, bad. As long as the game is close, whether it is perfectly played, imperfectly played, or somewhere in between, as long as it's close, that's what really kind of keeps it interesting,
Yeah, and that said, some of the earlier games, 10 o'clock on the West Coast, 1 o'clock in the East, were compelling and close. But why were there only 3 late games, none of which were really even worth watching? I get you're going to have an unbalanced schedule at times, but I don't get that. I'm not sure what the NFL is thinking there. At least give us 4 or 5 games to watch.
Yeah, exactly. Kind of divided up a little bit. But, let's go ahead and give some props to a couple of teams. Your New York Giants got it done, that Thursday night game against the Redskins. And then what about one of the games we have picked, but we differed on? That was the Tennessee Titans against the Indianapolis Colts. The experience came through in the end. Mariota played a great game, but, a costly interception there really cost his team that game. But what do you think of that game, though, when you look at the development of Mariota and that Tennessee team versus the helter-skelter nature of the Colts right now?
Yeah, I think that could be a precursor to what we'll see in the AFC South in a few years. The Titans, I think in what is a fairly weak division, could be an up-and-coming team. I like what I see with Mariota. He'll get over the turnovers and the jitters and so forth. And I think the Colts, especially if the wheels come off and Pagano leaves and their aging free agents don't pan out, could be on some sort of a downswing. But that said, at the end of the day, Andrew Luck, for all his faults and criticism, really showed why he's one of the, if not the best young quarterback in the NFL, leading yet another comeback.
Yep, absolutely. And then the other thing was, how about Cincinnati getting it done against Baltimore in Baltimore? That was another game we talked about. And, the narrative I've been following for a couple of weeks now, regular season Andy Dalton. He's fantastic. And that was a game where, when I look at the end of that game, if you saw the press conference, I think Marvin Lewis had been crying. I mean, seriously, because he thought they were going to lose that game. He pulled it out, and I think tears of joy when Dalton pulled out that game. So if Cincinnati starts to get over the hump and we see something later on this year, I think we can look back at this game, which was a typical game that Andy Dalton would have lost on the road in Baltimore. Late score by Baltimore. Normally Cincinnati crumbles, but they stayed the course, and the Big Red had got it done.
Yeah, I've got to hand it to him. I keep picking against the Bengals every week, but looks like this may be their year, especially with Roethlisberger going to be out 4 to 6 weeks for the Steelers and the Ravens struggling. It's a winnable division for them now.
Yeah, absolutely. And then the other one is the Arizona Cardinals. I mean, I think maybe on a mission and just kind of mad they lost their quarterback last year, came out there, put it on the Niners like nobody's business, and just harassed Kaepernick all day. I mean, 2 pick sixes, but that Cardinals team looking unstoppable.
People thought I was crazy when I said the Cardinals would be a contender for the NFC title this year. And look, I know it's early, but with a healthy Carson Palmer, an up-and-coming defense, and the man who I think is the most underrated coach in the NFL, Bruce Arians, they could do some damage. I'm looking forward to those 2 matchups later this year against the Seahawks. One interesting side note, Charles, look at the fortunes of the Cardinals and the Bears, 2 teams going in completely opposite directions. Right. And Bruce Arians was a candidate for the head coaching job that inevitably went to Mark Trestman. At the time, I was scratching my head. It ended up being a major disaster, but think how things would have been different. I'm not saying Trestman or even Arians could have turned that team around, especially with the stranglehold of the Cutler contract, but I will say Bruce Arians is a far better head coach in the NFL.
Yeah, I think, very little doubt about that. And they should have known because he came off the Steelers coaching tree, just like the job that Whisenhunt is doing there in Tennessee. The Steelers, they just kind of, I know there's a lot of Steeler fans, a lot of people who don't like the Steelers, but when it comes right down to it, they have a great coaching tree there, and they come from a tradition of winning football. Last week, I went 4-1 with the picks. You went 3-2, and so after everything is all said and done and it shakes out, we're all, we're sitting at 8-7 on the season. So I guess, just a little bit above 500, but that just shows you what kind of a year it's been. You and I picking each week, picking against each other, and all our years of football watching knowledge, and we're just barely above 500.
It was the great Don Henley once saying, "The more I know, the less I understand," and that's the NFL in 2015 for us, apparently.
Yeah, well, interesting side note, though, I helped a friend of mine pick against the spread. She was in an office pool, and believe it or not, she won because of all my picks that I made against the spread. Now, of course, she wants my help again, but I don't know if I should just quit while I'm ahead or what, because I kind of know what's coming.
Yeah, I did hear that Vegas sports books took a beating this weekend, that basically the novices and the professionals were on the right side on a majority of the games. So you're going to look like an expert after last week. But why the heck not? I mean, it's such a crazy year when you throw in the point spread. I mean, it's like throwing darts at a board, I guess, if you're picking games with the lines. But yeah, maybe you should go out on top. I don't know. What do you say? Pull like a Strahan or a Bettis and go out with your championship?
Yeah, maybe I should. Lord knows I've been getting slapped around for enough years here. So, and by the way, Bettis got his ring tonight as the Steelers. Well, they lost a close game to Baltimore. Another 3-point game. In fact, when I watch the Steelers and Baltimore play, I always look at the score and just kind of do the math in my head. What would another touchdown be? What would a field goal be? And always it comes down to something that adds up to a 3-point differential.
Yeah, definitely. And then Vegas was on that. I think the Ravens were a 3-point favorite, so they got their push there. But the other thing is those games always come down to the wire. Other than the wild card game last year, I think every single time they seem to play in prime time, you're watching the whole game. It's not a blowout, and it's not boring.
There we go. Okay, everybody. So let's go ahead and get into the picks of this week. So 5 of the more intriguing matchups, and we're going to pick them for you and see how we do. So very first game, and this is 2 franchises, well, one headed in the wrong direction and the other, as usual, right direction, wrong direction, sideways, whatever. That's the New York Jets against the Miami Dolphins. This is going to be played in the UK. This is going to be an early game here on the West Coast. It'll be on at 6:30 in the morning. I don't know if anybody will get up to see that. I don't know if anybody really wants to get up and see it. But this is where the Dolphins last year, remember, they got their get-right game was in the UK. So in the UK, where they don't really watch a lot of football, they might think the Dolphins are a really great team there. So I'll let you go ahead and pick this one first. Do they lose this game? And then we wonder how many of the Dolphins staff actually gets left over there in the UK.
Yeah, Charles, you got to give your team some credit. They beat the mighty Redskins in Week 1. They've got their win. Joe Phillips.
Oh, that's true.
So, but then again, everyone beats the Redskins except the Rams. But I would like to side with your team here, and I'm not going to. I'm going to pick the Jets. I really think they had a poor performance last week. I do think they will bounce back. I don't think Brandon Marshall will be trying any foolish laterals. I really don't think that Todd Bowles will let Ryan Fitzpatrick throw the ball as much as he did. Got to get Chris Ivory into the game, run the ball, control the clock. And I also think from an intangible standpoint, the quarterback, Mr. Tannehill, is too much with the turnovers. And now I'm starting to read and hear rumblings that has this team quit on Joe Philbin yet again. And remember last year in London, when the Raiders got work, Dennis Allen got fired even before he got on the long trip back over the Atlantic Ocean over the U.S. So I'm not saying Philbin will get fired, but bad things seem to happen in London, so he better watch his back.
Yeah, that's true. And I would like to pick the Dolphins, obviously. But I just look at the teams, and they've not shown me anything, especially not last week, getting their just their butts kicked. I think, what did Tannehill throw 3 picks in that loss? But I like the Jets, too. And, just they've been playing better football than the Dolphins. And the Dolphins, when I look at it on both sides of the ball, I don't see anything that gives me any hope to think they can win this game against the Jets. Because even on defense, and that was the thing last year, was the offense sputtered, but normally the defense was solid. Here on defense, even though they got Ndamukong Suh in the middle, but as one of the commentators said, they would do better if they just took that $113 million and stacked it up in the middle of the field and let the guys run against that, as opposed to having Ndamukong Suh out there. So he's kind of been a bust since he came here. I've heard that he's arguing with the defensive coordinator. But this is a team in disarray, and I think they'll go there. They'll lose this game. I think by Tuesday they'll have a new coach, an interim coach, and changes in store there for the Miami Dolphins. Yeah,
at least that pile of $113 million wouldn't get as many personal foul penalties. I'll say that.
There you go. Okay, and then the New York Giants, your New York Giants in Buffalo, take on the Bills, the surprising Bills, with Tyrod Taylor at quarterback there, still getting it done. Worked the Dolphins last week, and your Giants, they got a win against the Redskins. Victor Cruz not going to play, re-aggravated that calf injury. But this is one of those games the Giants may be starting to get rolling, and I think with the way the NFC East is, I really think 8-8 or maybe 7-9 is going to wind up taking that division. So a good chance for the Giants to get this win in upstate New York. But I do like the way that Buffalo is playing. Buffalo has a swarming defense too. This is going to be a good game. Good game, but I go with the hometown Buffalo Bills here. Close game. I think the Buffalo Bills probably by about 3 points here over the Giants. What do you think?
Yeah, unfortunately, I'm going to have to agree with you, and the reason being is, while the Giants got a win last week, let's face it, Kirk Cousins was awful for the Redskins.
Yeah.
He threw some terrible interceptions. Anytime the Redskins see him move the ball, he'd kill the drive. So I'm going to chalk that up to the Redskins being bad as opposed to the Giants' defense being that good. I also think Rex Ryan, while his time with the Jets, always seemed to play second fiddle to the Giants while they were winning Super Bowls, and he's going to want to be Coughlin, and the fact of the matter is they've got an excellent defense. I know the Patriots spanked them, but Patriots may be spanking everyone this year. It's a team on a mission, and like the way Tyrod Taylor's playing, he can't be any worse than Kirk Cousins, so I'll agree with you and pick the Bills.
Okay, there we go, in agreement on that one. And then this may get a little interesting here, but and another team, maybe fragile psyche a little bit, that's the Kansas City Chiefs. The Chiefs in Cincinnati to play those red-hot Cincinnati Bengals. And last week the Bengals, what a great game. I think A.J. Green had 13 catches, or 10 catches rather. Steve Smith had 13, but a great game for him, 2 touchdowns, including the game winner. So do the Bengals keep on this roll, or do the Chiefs get that ship righted, and after taking that spanking against the Green Bay Packers, do they get the win in Cincinnati? What do you think on this one?
I'm going to have to jump on your bandwagon. Not a Dalton bandwagon, but a Bengals bandwagon. I'm going to pick Cincinnati. I like the way they're playing, and never mind the offensive side of the ball. Their defense, which they've been known for, is really playing well again. Mm-hmm. And let's face it, they're up against a quarterback who doesn't realize he can throw the ball vertically. He thinks everything's a dump-off or a check down. Really just head-scratching stuff on Monday night in Green Bay. While Jamal Charles had a great game, ultimately, I think the Bengals will dare Smith to throw the ball. And, Charles, we've been doing this long enough. Andy Reid will do something silly or mismanage the clock. So I'm going to pick Cincinnati.
All right, there we go. And I got to agree with you, too. I mean, they're playing too well, like you said, both sides of the ball. And, the Big Redhead has been lights out so far. I'm going to go ahead and keep riding while they're hot. I got the Bengals here. And, the Chiefs, they're going to be in a little bit of disarray after this game, but I got the Bengals all the way. And then Minnesota in Denver to play the Broncos. Minnesota coming off the big win. Adrian Peterson and Teddy Bridgewater getting on the same page there. Looks like that offense is really clicking now in Denver to play the newer efficient Denver Broncos offense, where Peyton Manning is not doing nearly as much as far as the vertical passing game. But Minnesota Vikings, the question is, can they keep that going on the road at Mile High, which is a tough place to play? I'm going to go ahead and go with the Vikings. I say they go in, they take that game, and this is going to really take another step towards legitimizing them as an NFC threat. NFC threat. So I got the Vikings on the road getting the win in Denver. What do you think?
I have to agree with you again, Charles. I don't know what's going on here with the two of us this week. I know we even both like the Ravens tonight. Agree with you completely. Well, I think it's impressive that the Broncos are undefeated. Let's face it, they've had some luck involved. Against the Ravens, a potential go-ahead touchdown by Baltimore. The Chiefs, the fumble by Jamal Charles, the bungling of the play calling by Andy Reid. And last week, I don't know what the heck the Lions are doing, but poor Matthew Stafford was pressured, consistent. Jim Caldwell's team had too many guys on one side of the line, so a missed field goal was negated, and the Broncos got to re-kick it, turning the game around. And frankly, while I'm impressed with the Broncos' defense, I don't think they faced the back like Adrian Peterson this season, and North Turner will come up with a good game plan. I think it'll be close. I'm not looking for a shootout. And I also like the way Mike Zimmer's defense has been playing, and I think they can neutralize Bates.
Exactly. So we'll see what's happened, see if the Vikes can keep it rolling. And last game, this is a tough one. Dallas and the New Orleans Saints. Two teams, a lot of problems. Of course, Dallas still missing Tony Romo and Dez Bryant. And then Drew Brees might play this week. He might not. Honestly, I don't know that it's that big of a deal, because the Saints were going to have an awful season anyways. I mean, forget what they say on all the NFL infomercials. We know that ESPN is just an infomercial which is subsidized by the NFL. That's all they are. Okay, so no matter what, the whole thing of Drew Brees is out. I doubt the Saints were going to win more than 5 games this year anyway. So then you got the depleted Dallas team. Tough game to pick. I'm going to go ahead and go with Dallas in this game, just because I think they're a little stronger on the defensive side of the ball. And Brees may play, but even if he does play, he'll be a little injured. I think that's going to take away from the touch passes, and he likes to go deep. I think it's going to affect that as well. I got to go with Dallas in this game.
Again, Charles, I'm going to have to agree with you, and you hit on something I initially thought of when I was analyzing this game. Whether Brees plays or not, I don't think it matters. Brees plays, will probably be banged up, not 100%. I don't like what I see out of the Saints this year. Right. And honestly, the Dallas blew a winnable game against Atlanta last week, and I got to give some credit to Brandon Whedon. He followed the game plan. He made the throws he needed to play. Joseph Randle ran well behind that offensive line, and I think all the defense needs to make some stops, and the good news for them is Julio Jones doesn't play for the Saints, so I'll pick the Cowboys.
Right, there we go, everybody. So we agree picking the Jets, the Buffalo Bills, Cincinnati Bengals, Minnesota Vikings, and the Dallas Cowboys in our 5 most intriguing matchups of the week. So remember, watch us everywhere, wherever you're watching, on YouTube or on Vimeo. We'll be here every week for you. Before we sign off, Mr. Lardieri, any nuggets of wisdom for everyone out there?
But of course, Charles, another quarterback, as we mentioned earlier, Ben Roethlisberger, down with an injury.
Yep.
Michael Vick played for him, not spectacularly tonight. Are we noticing a trend, NFL fans? The quarterbacks are getting hurt. And this time it's not the concussions, not the head injuries. You're seeing a lot of leg and knee injuries. In the case of Romo, broken collarbone. There are a lot of initiatives to protect the quarterback, but at the end of the day, these guys are getting hurt. And reading into it a little bit, one theory is that because of the new collective bargaining agreement, players not working out as much as they used to, these offensive linemen just aren't ready, and some teams, frankly, just have shoddy offensive line. So a trend to keep your eye on, especially because, I don't know about you, I wouldn't want to watch a potentially Michael Vick, say, playing I don't know, Ryan Fitzpatrick or whoever else is, one of the McCown brothers, for instance. Not for compelling TV, and what the turning point could be is the fantasy football nation. I mean, they're going to get upset that their starting quarterbacks are hurt, and it's not gambling, by the way, but they're going to get a little frustrated. So I don't know. Do you put more initiatives in to protect the quarterbacks? Do you let the offensive linemen work out more? Not sure what the answer is, but that's looking to be the trend so far early in 2015.
Yeah, well, it's I'm going to watch football for as long as it's enjoyable. I've watched it for so many decades now, but I think it's headed toward pretty much being flag football. When it becomes no longer compelling, I will no longer watch. But for now, it's still good. So everybody, remember, every week NFL Football Talk. This is an Inside Sports production. We're going to go ahead and sign off. So for Mr. Chris Lardieri, remember, follow him on Twitter at Chris L Sports. And this is Charles E. Smith Jr. Follow me on Twitter at The Inside Sports. We'll see everybody next week, and thanks for watching.